Hi everyone, this is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Today's video 249 is a tutorial and we're going to do the log cabin. But I call these the Petite log cabin, and it's going to be the blocks. They'll be 4.5 inches and then 4 will be put together to make something special. But this really has a special kind of charm, and they can either be done by hand or machine stitched. It's from the American Patchwork Quilting Winter 2024, page 47. And here's a picture from the mag. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? It's so colorful and geometric, and there's one of the places where you can see it. If you wanted to do the big quilt, it's going to have 8x9 big blocks. I'll show you those in a minute. And that would be 72 to make it. But look how much fun you could have, because this is such a fun one for Scrappy. Again, falling into that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to talk about how I set up to this point, how I've got it set up, and then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do work on the first block that I'm working on, and we'll get those so you get an idea, a sense of kind of things to look for. And you can see we're going to have the main color. I've already gotten started. And in this one, the main color for this block is this flowered part in the middle. And so what I do, because of the way I'm going to do my second part, you're going to see that the material, this is not the same material, but the material I'm doing now, I just have it set out so that I can easily cut strips off of this one, okay? And then there is a block, a colorful block that goes in there, and mine in this block was a brown, but I'm going to use different blocks in that place around. And then we're going to have sets of tan or cream strips. And these I went ahead and I've got those cut, and I'll show you where they're going to go. Now it's going to be a little different the way I'm going to do it. Instead of cutting the dark, I'm going to use a strip to do that. All right, so once I get all this laid out, well, now when I have my creams, I want some light, medium, darks. And so when I have them laid out, I have a good sense of what I'm missing right now. Because if you're going to do many of these blocks, it takes a lot. Like in the directions, it's saying you need 288 of something and 288 of something else. And I thought, I'm sort of a get slow start on this, like do my first block and see how it goes. And I've done log cabin before, and I've done it with 1 inch strips, 1 inch strips. So I had a little bit of idea there. All right, and one thing I want to do, because I'm already in here, is that once you get the block put together, and here's the one that I'm working on that you can see. I've got a nice little stack of them. I'm going to talk about that too, because I'm going to talk about doing some machine chaining if you want to, as an option too later, once you get used to the pattern. And I tell you some things you might want to watch for that. But when you get finished, you can see this got a little bit of a wonky to it. And the nice thing is, and they don't all look like that. Like I've got the next one's very nice. But the nice thing is, if you take a 4.5 inch square, because that's what size the block's supposed to be, and you lay it down on there, and you know where the center is. Well, the center would be the center of your main block right there. All right, and then you have your lines that run out to the corners, and I try to line those up with where they come to the corner. Sometimes it doesn't, just because it doesn't want to. And you get it where it's sort of in there, and you've got a nice line out here and around that you're going to be able to sew. And that looks like it's ready to cut. So I'm just going to take and I'm going to go up. And you notice I'm cutting some off. But every strip that went into this was 1 inch. All right, I've got that part. And I've got to get one more side. So I'm going to turn it. Now I can just set that in place, except that piece isn't off yet. And I can trim the other part that I have. And you'll do that to all. It's going to take 4 of these to make the larger block. And so I've got the whole stack over there ready to go, but I wanted you to see that. And you know, you can do it by taking a piece of the plastic, and for this I'd work with the heavier plastic, and put your center point, do your diagonals, and then do your center point. Now this you'd have to be really careful with as you cut around the outside. It'd be a little bit different than this one, which is thicker. All right, so that's got us when we get to the end of the square. Before we move on and go to the sewing machine in the next part, I want to let you know what the dimensions are. That when you're using medium and dark fabrics, like this fabric is a nice dark, you can you have 1 by 2, 1 by 2.5, 1 by 3, 1 by 3.5, 1 by 4, 1 by 4.5, and you'd cut 4 of those to do the blocks. All right, and the quilt takes 72 of the 4 log cabin blocks, and the quilt is 64.5 by 72.5. It would be that 8 by 9 we mentioned before. All right, but then here's what I was talking about too. Or instead of cutting that, which would be these dark ones on here, just make a continuous cut strips. Like I'm going to take this and cut from one selvage to the other. I've got it folded in half, make a nice long strip, and I'm going to show you how that'll work out. And then go back to the cream. All right. For that decorative square that's in each one of them, there's one square. It's 1.5 inch square. So that would be this little, in this case, I'm using a little gold one right there in the middle. And that really helps me to watch, to square up as I'm going. And I'll show you that on the sewing machine. Now, I did cut these for the cream and tans or tans that you use. And every one is a 1 inch. And the smallest one is 1.5. Then 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. And I did really well with these first couple that I had cut. But then I started finding out that it wasn't hitting quite right, like as close as I wanted it to on these. So then I just made them a little bit longer. And I'll show you. This part is different from the darks because here's what I finally ended up with. And I have a pile for the 1.5, the pile for the 2s, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. And because of what was happening to me, I extended those. Now, I didn't cut this many when I started. I just started to do the first square, and I needed one of these and one of these. I just needed one of each one, so that I could see how it was going to fit. And as I've gone along, and you know, I'm staying on the same sewing machine, I'm staying with the same ruler that I'm cutting all my 1 inchers with. And so whatever was happening, I was ending up with these 2, or really the last 3, being kind of short. And so as I cut the next ones, I made them a little longer to make up for that. And you may not have that problem because everybody's rulers are different. Their sewing machines might find the 1/4 of an inch, which we all know should be at the same place, but we know what happens when you sew. And mine's going to be an eclectic quilt. It's going to be a collection of different materials. I found a material that I pulled out. It was thimbleberries that you don't hear about anymore, and it's great material, and it was bought out. But these are 4 examples of blocks that I've made, and they've been made with 4 small 4.5-inch blocks put together. All right, now for the fun part. Okay, the next one, here are 4 pieces that would be the centerpiece for the next block. And I'm going to just take and start. And if you know how to do the log cabin, it'll be easy, and you can probably just move pretty fast. But the first part is going to have a 1.5-inch light color on it. And let's see. I think this will work. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to seam it 1/4 inch. And pretty soon, as I go through this, you're going to start to see why I decided I'd try to do a little bit of chain stitching with this. So that made my first section. Making sure you guys can see it. Okay. Then I went on to the next one, and I went to the little pile in my box, which was the 2-inch sections. All right. Now, what you want to do is you want to go counterclockwise. So this was the first one I put on. I'm going to move to my left, and the whole thing is done moving to your left. All right, I'm going to take that one and stitch a nice 1/4 inch. And this part goes fast. And then I want to say too, it's when you take the opportunity, when you get that, is to fold the seam fabric away from the middle. I tried it several ways, opening the seams, but this makes them really lay down nicely. All right, so that got those 2. All right, well, I had a couple pieces left over from the other blocks that I was working on, so I'm just going to pick those up. These are the dark ones now. We put 2 lights in. We're still going counterclockwise. And what I do is I usually pick this up in my hand and hold it because I want this to be right on. And I run it across there. And see, this is looking so good already, but because you can see the same amount of gold down there from the square. So let's go and put this one on. And the only thing I found out is that I kept running off. When I got closer to my body, I was veering off to the right. So I finally stopped doing that. And then I just trimmed off the bottom part. And there's that one. Then I need another one, so I still had another piece. Now pick it up, and I'm going to set it up there. It's crooked, so I'm going to make it straighter along there. And now I've got some hanging off the sides, and I don't cut it from this front side. I turn it over because you can see how easy it is to trim. And turn this one. And so we have made the first round, and we're going to only have 3 rounds. Just about the time you get wound up and you get some of those longer ones, you're done. All right, so now I'm ready to move on, and I'm going to come do clockwise still. So I'm going to come back over here to this. We're going to be at this one because we just did this side. Now we're going to go over to this side, and I'm going to pick up a light. And I think these fit pretty good, the 3s. I'm going to lay it on there, set it across, And right now, everything is really fitting together for me, and I want to get where I show you that it changes. You say, it should be the same. And I said, I've done this with small pieces lots of times. All right, but that one's on, and I've trimmed it off, turned it over and trimmed it. I need another light one. So I'm going to see if this looks like it'll fit. And there it is. It's not perfect. I'm going to have to trim it. But it's better to have too much material than not enough, because you really need it to go all the way from the beginning to the end. All right, and I'm going to turn it over. I'll square it up. All right, now we've got two. So now we're back to the dark fabric. And I still had one more piece left, so I'm going to put it on there. And now I notice that if you look at this right edge towards my right arm, if I lay that up there just like it is, I have some material that seems to be sticking out. But when I look at my gold box, look how even it is. So I know that's pretty close to right. And so I put it, and we're going to stitch this side. Yeah, I didn't tip it over. There it goes. And that side. Now open it up. That looks pretty nice. So now I'm going to start with the other's next one, which is dark. And now I'm going to go to my long strip. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you. Once you get your pieces where you're pretty happy with how long they are, and you may have had to alter the starting ones that were in there. All right, I'm going to line that up with that end. I'm going to do this one. You could have a lot of fun with this if you thought of something else that you wanted to do and use the 1-inch strips. And the funny thing is that what you find to use, I have a box back there. I like 1-inch strips, and I have a whole box full, and I started rummaging through there to find any 1-inch strips that were light colors, like the creams that I could use. And I found a few. That was kind of nice. And the other thing I do is when I have a large piece of material and it's got pieces left over, because sometimes if they're big, I'll add back to there. Well, those would be the ones that I would cut first before I'd go into a nice bigger piece of material. So then we'd get ready, and we'd be ready to do the next round. And so here, this is start where I have to do the light ones again, and I'll see what I pick up. And you see, I could almost tell this wasn't gonna fit. Well, gosh, that's how close it was. It is gonna, I'm gonna go ahead and put it there. And that one's gonna work. Get him moved over. So now you know if you use a longer piece, you sew it all the way across, turn it over, and trim it off. And you would finish this by doing another cream, and then you start your dark again and your dark, and that would be the end. You have 3 rounds added to the middle. And what I wanted to show you now, and then you go and press it. Okay, and to press it, I turned it. I didn't press till the end of the block, this little block, because pressing or ironing seem to distort the strips, because you know some of them are going to be going with the grain and some you'll cut that don't go with the grain. It doesn't matter on this one as long as you remember to be careful when you press. So I would press the back first where everything's going away from the center, and then I turn it over and then lightly press the front part of it. And then I take it to the cutting board and use my template and trim it. All right, so now what I want to do is just go to go to doing some sample chaining. All right, and so for the light ones, when I started, I finally got to the point now where I was doing 3 full blocks. Well, that would be 12 of those, of the little 4.5s. So I just took the first one and I put it on there, that 1.5. I sewed it, and I stopped. And then I picked out another one because I tried to use a variety. Sometimes when I was doing all 12 of them, I put my little pile up here so I could go through them and pick out one that I haven't used or another one I wanted to repeat. All right, and then I come over close and just run it. And the last one that I did, I ran all 12 of these, like these gold blocks, ran all 12. And pretend I've got 12 done, and they're all strung together. And so all I'm going to do is take and go and cut them apart. All right. And then I want this next part to make sense. I'm going to run the next set on here, the other one. Okay, now I've done all of those. I brought my pile of 2 inchers up. I'm going to put those back in the box in the right spot. And I'm going to go grab my long strip. And it's just going to be whatever you have. And go ahead and trim. And I look, when I turn this one over, I see I need to trim this off. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first one. Now we're still going counterclockwise. So we did the little one, the next one, and now we're going to do the dark one. Okay, I'm going to lay this on here. This is really a fun project. I got a few blocks done, and I thought, well, I'll wait till I get more done. And then I thought about it today, and I said, no, I can't work on mine if I've got it all set up to do the video. So I said, I think I'll go ahead and do this beginning tutorial of this. All right, and so now I've got it under there. I've got my dark on there. I'm not cutting it at all. I'm leaving the little tail come towards me. I look and I see that my gold piece is the same size all the way down. I'm set for another 1/4 inch. And then when I get to the last place where there's a place added, and it's not on this one, there's just one, but when you do the next rows, there'll be more places there. Well, I take this next one, open it up, and I can look at that one and see the way it should be sitting with these 2 light colors over here. And now I'm going to pick up that little tail. I'm going to bring it sort of close. You know your sewing machine, how close you can get. And this one, it's close. All right. So I've got it sitting there. My seams are going towards me on the bottom. All right. And then I've got the last one. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to set it underneath there. And my gold looks pretty good. And you can tweak it a little bit there, you know, to get it like you want it. And then run it. Now, if you can imagine that I had 12 of those going off the end down there. Then I turn it over. So I'm looking at the right side of the long part that I had on there. and I'm going to trim it. And it's nice because it's easy to see where this comes. And like there's a little bit of material between there, so I'm going to go over to the right and gently get that, come back to the left and get that. And I usually set them just like they are, so I don't have to turn them back around, or they're all different directions. And that one, and that one, and then all the rest of the 12 that I didn't do. And then I'm ready to turn it over. And I know that it's going to have to go on this side. So because I laid them all the same way, I know that they're all going to be pretty much set up. Now, can they get out of place? Yes. But any that stay in place, that's great. So now I've got that lined up. I just do this one more time, because this, you know, when you think that you can do 8 or 12 in a row, think of how much cutting you save, and thread you save, and like that. But every once in a while I go back and just do 2, because sometimes I find out when I start trying to do too many, I'm doing the too many, and I'm not doing the pretty that I want to do, so I just slow it back down. Or if I'm tired, I just do 1 block and do the cutting. And then I'm going to slide this one under there. And I like that pretty good. I'm going to turn it over. There it goes. There's my dark. Cut that little piece off. Cut that dark. Cut that little piece off. Stack them up. We're ready to turn it and start with the next short row. And everybody's sitting the same way. But these are always your ones that you're going to have to do individually, because you want to use different patterns. The nice thing about the dark colored is that's always going to be the same, so you can do it. I wanted to check my notes where they are, so I can't put my fingers on my 2 note cards right now, but you know, as soon as I shut this off, they're going to show up. But I think I hit about everything, because I just want you to have a successful experience with these, because it's so much fun. And there's so many ways that you can put log cabin blocks together and turn them, and different fabrics that you can use and everything. This is a great way to use up some of your scrappy, and also have a reason to go buy some more cream fabric, which we all seem to be short. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit like.